Hello there, Salim Omar here from CPA Marketing Genius. Welcome to another episode of the podcast of the show. I have a very special, interviewee with us, a guest with us. His name is Bob Wheeler. Bob, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Awesome. The reason Bob's going to be an amazing interviewee or guest is because he is a CPA like us. He's built a very successful practice located on the West Coast in the Los Angeles area. And I think it'll be best for Bob to share his story. So my first question to Bob is, Bob, if you can take a minute or less, kind of give us your backstory. What brings you up to this point in time?
Absolutely. Well, my whole life as a kid wanted to be a lawyer. Went to college to be a lawyer. I took accounting only to help my grade point average because it was something I got easy grades in, or it came easy. As I was going through college, I realized I didn't like that many lawyers. And so I decided I've got all my accounting credentials. Let me sit for the CPA exam. And that's what I did. And even then, I thought I'll just be a CPA for a little bit to look at different businesses and I'll start my own business, not knowing down the line that I would actually have a business of being a CPA. And so basically, I got into it because I liked working with numbers. My professor in college always told me that public accounting was 60% accounting, 40% public, that you had to focus on the service and you had to focus on communication. And that was a really important thing, I think, a lesson that she gave me. And so I worked for a couple firms. I was in private accounting for probably about 3 years and then switched over to public and then left and started my own firm and built it into the large practice I have today with 15 employees. I brought in a partner 3 years ago and just continuing to build and hopefully giving people great service.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So how long have you been at it? When did you start your practice?
So I actually started my own official practice. I had worked for other firms up until then. Okay. When I started out, I left my firm, the firm I was working for. I didn't have a plan, had a few employees. I had a few clients and I just sort of a lot of faith. And I was unhappy at the other job. And so I'll work part-time. And it just slowly built into what I have today.
Yeah. So what are some mistakes you made early on that you wish you had known so you wouldn't have made them?
Well, I think when you start out, you sometimes will take any client just to have the billing. I think in hindsight, if I had been a little more selective with a few clients where I spent more time than I actually got paid for, I think that would have been good. Learning to be really clear about my billing. I think in the beginning, I would feel somebody would say, oh, I'm really broke. I'm an out of work actress. I'm really broke. And then I'm doing her tax return and she's got $50,000 worth of interest income because, she's poor, but mommy and daddy have $10 million they gave her. And so so not getting all my facts when I was quoting pricing and stuff like that. But I think the biggest thing was being more selective about who I took on as clients.
Got it. Yeah. So tell us a bit about, we'll try and focus on the three areas that I, mentor CPA firms. So client attraction, building a championship team, and streamlining your operation. So when it comes to client attraction, what are some of the things you've done that have really led to your growth?
A couple of things. One, I think being open to client requests. The way that my client base grew so exponentially was a client of mine asked me if I would just meet with their financial advisor. Now, some CPAs have an aversion to talking with financial advisors because some of them are salesmen. Some of them actually know what they're doing, right? There's a lot of different folks. And so this guy asked if I would meet with their financial advisor. I said, sure, why not? Sat down with him. Well, it turned out he was Ameriprise's #1 new financial advisor in the country. Well, when I met with him, we got along, he started referring me people. And so I went from 200 to 400 clients in a year. And then he introduced me to several financial advisors who then started referring me. They'd moved to another brokerage house. And all of a sudden I had 20 or 30 people just referring left and right with no expectation.
Wow.
And it was my willingness to take an extra hour, meet with the financial advisor, had nothing to do with the tax planning, and it made this relationship. So I think that's one thing. The other thing I think that has really helped grow the business, I don't look at my tax returns as tax returns. I look at each tax return as a relationship. And so when I'm doing that tax return, I'm advocating for that client. I'm trying to find, where can I save them money? How can I strategize? I treat it as if it's my money going out of the bank. And I know some people are, it's volume and who cares? And it's just numbers. For me, it's always been about relationships. And I think because of that, people feel my desire to make sure that they're taken care of, that I'm actually doing the best for them. And also when I've made mistakes, to be able to own it. Go, wow, yeah, I dropped the ball there. Let me fix it. And I think that surprised a few people, that I was willing to actually, instead of trying to figure out a way to secretly fix it or put the blame on my staff, to just flat out say, yeah, at the end of the day, that's my fault. How can I make that up? And so really being in relationship, I think, has been key. I just have these long-term amazing clients that I just feel very connected with.
Yeah. And so how are you keeping the relationship with them? It's, these are text clients. There are 1,000+ text clients. How do you stay in front of them, or do you stay in front of them?
So one of the big things we do is tax planning and strategies. So November and December are probably my busiest months. And so I focus on business returns, which comes with an individual, but we mostly do business returns. If somebody comes in with a W-2 and some mortgage interest, we're going to send them to somebody else. But you come in with a business or 2 or 3, we're going to help and strategize. So I'm meeting with clients at least twice a year, if not every quarter. We do a tax planning session, or I'm emailing them if they don't have time to have a meeting. So we're constantly interacting with the clients. Clients come into the office. Pre-pandemic, clients would just drop by. Oh, I want to say hi. Is Bob in? So doing a lot of meetings with people throughout the year, following up, checking in if somebody had a baby, somebody's getting married, if there's a death in the family, reaching out and connecting. Sorry, my condolences. Just letting people know that I'm tracking them. And if I haven't heard from somebody in a bit, I might reach out and say, hey, was just thinking about you the other day. Haven't heard from you. Hope everything's okay. And so I just really have made an effort to let everybody know that I'm actually an active participant in their life and in their financial strategies.
Wow, that's great. That's amazing. Yeah, relationships, right? You've kind of kept the relationship, reaching out to them in different ways and meeting with them in several times a year. Now, with 1,000+ clients, you possibly could not be the one meeting with all of them. Is your team doing this, the relationship building, the relationship nurturing?
Well, they are now. So up until I brought on a partner, I was doing all of it, and it was a lot, and I was working 7 days a week. And I think I was at a point where I might just have a nervous breakdown if I don't figure out how to let other people come in and help me, because it's not sustainable at the growth that I was getting. Because people were like, no, can we give you 2 more people? I'm like, no more. And at a certain point, I had to stop taking clients. But about 3 years ago, I realized I needed to bring a partner in. And so I started interviewing people, looking, because I had hired CPAs to work for me, but they didn't have skin in the game. And I needed somebody that actually wanted to have that relationship with the clients as well. And so I interviewed a bunch of people, teams of people, and finally found somebody that I felt was in alignment and brought her on. And, I'm one of those crazy people that work way too much, but it's not work for me. I love what I do. I love talking and connecting with clients. And so, I'm up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'll be here till 7, 8 at night, sometimes 9. And I know some people, that's not their cup of tea, but for me, it's just something I really enjoy the relationship. So I have made an effort, but certainly I have a team that follows up and keeps me on track. I have somebody managing all my emails, making sure, hey, you didn't call this. And I live by my calendar. So my calendar fills up. And my clients know I will get to them, but they've got to get in and get on the calendar. So we stay busy.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm hearing, Bob, is that you became clear about what your strengths are. What are you good at, which is relationships. And then you've got your team doing everything else to help you stay in front of the clients. So you're not really maybe necessarily preparing the returns or scheduling appointments. You've got your team doing that. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Now, up until a couple of years ago, I did review every return. I've given that up. I do review still. I do touch a lot of returns because it's my name going out there. And so I want to make sure that everybody's like, I try to set the bar high. Some people will say, Bob, you're too demanding. And I always say, well, I'm never going to lower the expectation of excellence. I'm not going to settle for
Mm,
mediocrity. And so I do still
mm.
review a lot, but I do more of the tax planning and just make sure I have good notes and stuff for other people to be able to look at. And so I don't review every return like I used to. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's been your solution to staff shortages in the?
Well, we're fortunate. We have a team. As part of our team is my partner had a couple of people that had come over to the US, went to UCLA, worked with her for 4 or 5 years, and then moved back to Hong Kong. And so we have a team of 4 people work when we're sleeping and sleep when we're
Mm,
working. And so we're able to really work 24/7 because we've got these people that they're actually part of our team. We have a relationship
mm.
and they come here and my partner flies there. And so we have a great team over there, as well as in-house. We have 12 people in-house at the moment.
Yeah, that's great. And that's been, yeah, the solution for myself as well for the last 8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
We've kind of outsourced it, developed a relationship that's built over now 8 years, where we get our preparation work, accounting, tax done by that firm, by that company. That's been like the best thing we've done. And
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting sometimes, and I'm on the West Side and it's probably a little more liberal, but they're still like, wait a minute, where's your team from Iowa? And it's hard to find people. There's a shortage out there. And at the end of the day, numbers are numbers. And as long as I've got a team of people that are in alignment, we have such a mix of people from different cultures. And I find that really fun. And I'm really grateful because because I think sometimes in the US, at least my experience, and in California, a lot of people that are very entitled and don't really know they're not solid in their skill set.
yeah,
And when I
right,
bring people in from other countries or bring people in from somewhere not from California, sorry, California,
right.
they're much more focused on the detail. They're much more focused on doing a really good job. And
Right.
they're just more all in. And
Yeah,
I love that stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's great. So I had a follow-up question that slipped my mind. So it's gonna come back. It's gonna come back. So a team of 12 that's here, several people that are outside the country,
Mhm.
yourself. Let's switch gears. And so one of the things actually, let's stay on, with the team, you brought in a partner. What
Uh-huh.
were some of the things that you learned that helped onboard this high level partner person into your firm?
Well, one of the things we met several times to make sure we were in alignment. I listened to different people, how they approached clients, what their philosophy was. And I think for me, it was important that my clients not feel like there was a changing of the guard or that something was different, right? I really wanted people to feel comfortable that nothing was going to change just because I brought somebody on, because I'd
Mm,
had such long relationships with people. And I think knowing that we were in alignment, that's really the biggest piece. The weird thing for us was we could both get a set of information and come up with almost the exact same return. We would calculate the exact same payroll. And it was, clients would say, wait a minute, I just talked to your partner. She just told me the same thing. I'm like, yeah. So in that way, it's sort of an anomaly, but we're very aligned in how we
mm,
do things. And so often we're parroting each other without knowing what the other person said. And
mm,
that's not common. So I got
right.
real lucky in that respect.
Yeah.
And I think just reassuring the clients that really everything was going to stay the same. I'm still here. I just
Mm,
need some help. And I
mm,
want to be able to continue to give good service. And this was the way to do it. So I really set
right.
it up for her to succeed and for the
Mm,
clients to feel like they weren't being abandoned.
got it. Yeah. And you're very much involved in the firm.
Mhm.
And so you shifted a few of the clients or a handful of clients over to her.
Yeah. And then she also took over all of the management of the staff. She took over all
Mm,
of the administrative stuff. So that freed me up to be able to
mm,
meet more with clients and not have to worry about, are we collecting? Are we doing the billing? Is there an HR
okay.
problem? All of that got taken off my plate.
Got it. Yeah. So more like a chief operating officer, COO. That's
Yeah.
her role. You're a CEO.
Right. Right.
Got it. Yeah. 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 When it comes to streamlining the operation with systems, technology stack, give us some things that have worked for you on that side.
So I brought in office tools, which we call OT, to really help manage client information. They can download documents through the portal. We can upload documents for them to grab their tax returns. We put in the correspondence. I put my tax planning notes into the system. So we've really used that program. And I know there were other ones out there, but I asked several CPAs, what does your firm use? And they said, Office Tools. If you've got 100 or less employees, Office Tools works really well. And so it's expensive, but it has paid off, because the thing is, when you grow your business, you've got to be able to track them. And I think when my business originally went from 200 to 400 to 600 within a couple of years, it was a little overwhelming. And so I wasn't quite prepared for the growth. It was a little unexpected. And it went a little faster. And so I had to take a moment and figure out, how do I make sure I'm getting out all my statement of information filings, my city business license filings. Oh, did we get out the extensions? So I had to come up with systems that where before I could maybe use Excel, I needed something that could provide reports and give me a sense of where the projects are. Because even though LaSur's great about saying under review and this and that, if you don't change them, you don't know where you are. And so just trying to find something that everybody could look at and know where a client's tax return was in the process.
Yeah. That visibility is so important, and really having that in an instant without having to go too far and too long in finding the answer or where a tax return is in the process.
Two other things that I did that I'll just mention, which I'm sure maybe some other people do this, but I'm very visual. All of my tax files, corporations are blue, personal are manila, trusts are pink, payroll is green. And so whenever I'm looking for a tax return, I know I'm just looking for a blue return, or I'm just looking for a pink return. And so that's all color coded. The other thing I did, I went old school. I brought in rolling carts. And so we have carts and carts. These are under review. And okay, we roll them into this office. Something I learned a long, long time ago when I used to work in manual labor, accounts payable and accounts receivable in private. And so I use that, and I've had other firms go, oh, I really like that. But having the carts that I can just move around to everybody's office, so we track, this one's under review, this is waiting to be processed, this is ready to be submitted. And we just label everything. And so we've got a lot of moving parts that are actively moving, but all very visible.
Got it. Yeah. So that tells me you've got a physical office.
Yes.
And your team's coming into the office, and you've got a few people outside the country.
That's right.
People that are here, they're coming into the office
every day.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the future in terms of that? Do you want to keep the physical office that's working for you?
Well, for me, it is. I'm probably old school. Sad to say, I'm actually becoming old school. I actually like the interaction with the staff. I like to be able to show them things in real time. Here's where you're missing this, or here's how to do excess mortgage interest. Whatever those things might be, I want to actually be able to go in and talk to them. I think it has more impact when I can look at them directly and say, hey, you're dropping the ball here. Let me show you how to do it differently. Whereas I can do that on Zoom. I can do it via email. To me, again, that relationship piece, even with my employees, feels very important to me. Now, that's a personal choice. And I know there are a lot of people that can work remotely and stuff like that. I have 3 screens, and I can't have 3 screens when I work remotely. I like having everything around me, but I like having the employees nearby. I like to either call them in and say, man, great job, or hey, step it up.
Got it. Yeah. Good stuff, man. This is good information you're sharing with us. I'm looking at the clock, and we've got now just a few minutes before we finish up. Is there a question? There probably is. A question I should have asked you, Bob, that's really important that you can wait to share with our listeners.
I think one of the things, there's 2 things. One is early on, I was at a seminar and somebody said they billed their clients up front. And I thought that was crazy. And so the question would be is how do I make sure I have cash flow to get me through tax season if I don't collect my money until after tax season? And I worked at a couple of firms that were always struggling with cash flow. They'd borrow money to get them through the 4 or 5 months and then pay it back. And so when I heard this guy say, look, I bill up front, I reached out to all my clients and said, I didn't want to do that, but I'm willing to say, you got to pay me $400 up front to confirm your appointment, to make sure you're committed. And I told him I can either focus on tax or collecting money. Nobody had a problem with it. First year I collected $90,000. Now we get $200,000-$300,000 before we even get to December 31st because they want the write-off. And we go into tax season very cash flush. So really, that's one thing, really staying on top of my receivable as well. We have a very low receivables. The other thing that we did was we realized focus on what we're good at. Financial audits, love doing them. Don't pay well. Nobody appreciates them. Nobody wins. So tax was something that I could get paid for immediately. It's what we were good at. We didn't really go into business management. We don't offer lots of bookkeeping. We'll do a little bit for a few people, but really tax, that was my focus. And so I think it's important to figure out what is it that you want to do and then decide what your mission is. Do I want to do volume? Do I want to do quantity, quality? Do I want to be of service? Do I want to have a high profit? Just get really clear. There's no right or wrong answer, but really get clear and then make sure people understand that's your mission. My mission is to do as many returns as possible at the lowest price. My mission is to do fewer returns. It's going to cost you more, but I'm going to give you a lot more time. They're all correct. There's no right or wrong answer, but really focusing on what's my mission and how do I want to be of service?
Right. And your mission, from what you've shared, it's preparing tax returns, tax planning, and high client contact. It came across. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And my mission is I want to be of service so that people are paying their taxes without overpaying and helping people to understand in their businesses how important it is to plan for taxes and how to strategize. That if you actually are intentional and proactive, you can save a lot of money in tax and grow your business. So really also wanted to teach my clients how to better manage their business finances and tax strategies.
Right. Yeah. And something you said that I think was really important, and I think you said it before I started the recording, was you don't see it as tax returns or 1,000 tax returns. You see it as 1,000 relationships. I think that's a pretty profound shift in mindset when one looks at it that way, because we end up showing up in a different way. We end up servicing the client in a different way when we look at it as a relationship, not as a tax return. Tax returns are commodities.
They are. Here's the thing. You can't really fake that. If it's not true for you, it's not true for you. I really do care about my clients and I really do want to show up for them. And they know it. And I know that that's at least been successful for me. We have a waiting list. We're in the position to be able to turn down a lot of clients or refer them out. And we're able to ask the price that we feel is fair. And not everybody can pay that. But I'm not here to save the whole world, but I am here to show up for the people that I've chosen to engage with.
Well said. That's awesome. Bob, what's the best way if somebody wants to reach out to you? Is there a way for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. The website, the best way to find me and all the things that I do is The Money Nerve. The Money Nerve. I'm a nerd, but it's nerve, moneynerve.com. That's got my CPA practice. I also have a podcast. I have an online course about money and emotions. So I also do coaching. And that's a great way to find me and reach out because I've got a team of people that make sure I answer my emails.
Great. Bob, thank you so much. This was amazing. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much. And I hope everybody benefited from this conversation.
I think they did. You take care.
Take care.